As a gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for bringing us together for this markup. I'm glad you brought up Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District, right in the 13th District of Illinois that I'm proud to represent. While you may not think it's a lush garden area of America, some of us think that the corn and soybeans that go and border all of our roads and bridges are just as beautiful as some of the gardening products you might have out in Oregon. And I certainly hope that I can get you, Mr. Chair, and Ranking Member Graves to come to the Champaign-Urbana area and talk to the folks at the Mass Transit District, because they are concerned. They're looking ahead, just like you said, at different new technologies. But they want to make sure that the administration actually puts those technologies first and doesn't limit them if there's another technology in the future. One of my amendments later will make sure that we don't limit other cleaner burning fuels that they may want to use into the future. But I hope when we go, we can get a chance to tour the Blind Pig Brewery too, because they have some of the best IPAs. I know you'll argue with me, Mr. Chair, that Oregon does, but I think you might like these here in Champaign-Urbana. But the problem is, you asked what's wrong with this process? What's wrong with looking at research into cleaner burning fuels? Nothing's wrong with that. Frankly, that's what we all want. But it's the process and how we got here, because it's a shame we're not here under different circumstances. Last year, we saw what happens to legislation when surface reauthorization becomes a partisan effort. As Ranking Member Graves said, it doesn't go anywhere in the Senate. And that's unfortunate, because you mentioned an area in my district that we can completely agree on. But that same mass transit district, at my transportation stakeholders meeting just last week in Decatur, Illinois, another plush area too of the country, that same mass transit district is having a hard time implementing and moving forward on a large bus facilities infrastructure grant that was awarded by the last administration because of the regulatory environment in this bill. We'll have another chance to fix that. That's one of my amendments, the One Federal Decision Act, that will actually make sure that we get all of the environmental reviews done in 2 years or less. How in the world can we not make that a fuel efficient or a tax dollar efficient measure in this bill? Because the dollars that we consistently talk about in these bills go further when the regulatory environment doesn't stop places like the Champaign County Mass Transit District from having to pay more to spend the dollars that they are awarded in a competitive grant in the last surface transportation bill. So that's why I'm disappointed today, Mr. Chair. We can come together. We can actually work these issues out if given the opportunity, just like they did in the Senate. I want to make sure that we also talk about the perils of moving forward with a large surface bill, infrastructure bill, however my colleagues want to define infrastructure on any given minute of any given day, and using the reconciliation process. I think there's still a shot at bipartisanship if we use the traditional reauthorization process to move an infrastructure package forward. I'm just not convinced that the leader of the Senate, the leader of the House, is going to allow all of us in this room to use that process. And once a reconciliation process becomes the pathway, all of what we're doing here today is kind of just political theater. Much of the debate we will have over the next, hopefully, hours and not days will actually not even make it through the Senate Parliamentarian Reconciliation Approval process. Remember, the bird rule is our chair likes to call it, the dead guy rule. Did I get that right, sir? Yeah. But that's the process that the majority and the administration is likely to choose. So what are we here for if we're not going to sit down beforehand and work out things that we know we can agree on? Many of the things that the chairman mentioned in his opening statement are things that we support. But we got to be given a chance. We can't just be brushed aside. We saw that last Congress, and I certainly hope, but I know we're going to get the same result after we finish what we're doing here in the next few hours, possibly days. I'm afraid, too, if the reconciliation process, Mr. Chair, moves forward, we're going to see it impact our ability to remain on schedule for reauthorizations that we just put back on schedule after the last non-reauth infrastructure investment that was a disaster that you voted against in 2010. And if we allow this to happen in Congress and the majority allows that process to move forward, I'm going to remind everybody in this room why those delays and those processes and reauthorizations happen in the future. And I know I'm out of time, so I yield back because you're probably going to hear more of me today.